You're on Somerton Park Beach, just south of Adelaide, on a cool December morning in 1948. The sun has barely cleared the horizon when you notice him. A man lying against the seawall, legs extended, feet crossed, a half-smoked cigarette resting on the collar of his jacket. He looks peaceful, almost elegant. You might assume he fell asleep watching the water, but he hasn't moved since last night. Witnesses saw him here at 7 o'clock the previous evening, his right arm rising once and falling limply to his side. After that, nothing. Just a man lying very still on a South Australian beach while the world moved on around him. When police arrive, they find no wallet, no identification, no hat, which in 1948 was almost stranger than the rest of it. Every label has been cut from his clothing. He has simply appeared, immaculate and anonymous, on the edge of the Australian summer. What follows is one of the most baffling cases in Australian criminal history. A dead man who refused for decades to give up his name. Adelaide in 1948 was a city still exhaling after the war. Returned servicemen filled the streets. Europe was rebuilding. The Cold War was hardening from an idea into a reality. And intelligence services from Washington to Moscow were busy repositioning their pieces on the board. It was a world in which men sometimes needed to disappear, and sometimes were made to. Somerton Park sat on the southern fringe of Adelaide's beach suburbs, a quiet, respectable stretch of coast about 11 kilometres southwest of the city centre, the kind of place where families spread out on the sand on weekends and neighbours knew each other's business. Not the kind of place where mysteries were supposed to begin, but this one did. The man would become known simply as the Somerton Man. A case so knotted with strange detail, so resistant to ordinary explanation that it would consume investigators, academics and amateur sleuths for more than 70 years. At approximately 6:30 on the morning of the 1st of December 1948, John Lyons and two companions found the body. The man was well dressed. White shirt, a red, white and blue tie, brown trousers, a brown knitted pullover and a fashionable grey and brown double-breasted jacket, described by investigators as being of American tailoring. His shoes were recently polished. His hands showed no signs of manual labour. His nails were clean. The pathologist estimated death had occurred at around 2 in the morning. The man's last meal had been a pasty, eaten 3 to 4 hours before he died. He was approximately 40 to 45 years old, about 180 centimetres tall, with grey eyes and fair to ginger hair going slightly grey at the temples. He had broad shoulders, a narrow waist and pronounced high calf muscles, the kind that come from habitually wearing heeled boots, or perhaps from years of dance training. His toes met in a distinctive wedge shape. The pathologist later described him as being in top physical condition. His pockets told a fragmented story. An unused second-class rail ticket from Adelaide to Henley Beach, a bus ticket, an aluminium comb made in the United States, juicy fruit chewing gum, a packet of Army Club cigarettes containing 7 Kenzitas brand cigarettes, a different brand which suggested they had been transferred deliberately. What he did not have was equally striking: no wallet, no identification, no keys, and every single clothing label had been carefully removed. 6 weeks later, on the 14th of January 1949, railway staff at Adelaide station found a brown suitcase that had been checked into the cloakroom on the 30th of November, the day before the body was discovered. The label had been removed from the suitcase too. Inside were clothing items, shaving equipment, a stenciling brush of the type used by merchant ship officers, and a card of orange wax thread, the same brand and colour as thread used to repair a pocket on the dead man's trousers. Several of the clothing items bore the name Keane, or variations of it. The cause of death remained maddeningly elusive. The pathologist John Dwyer was unequivocal in his view. I am quite convinced the death could not have been natural. The poison I suggested was a barbiturate or a soluble hypnotic, but no foreign substance was identified in the body. A professor of physiology at the University of Adelaide testified at the inquest that certain cardiac glycosides, extremely toxic, extremely difficult to detect, could explain the presentation. He handed the coroner the specific names on a piece of paper marked as an exhibit rather than speaking them aloud. That paper wasn't made public until the 1980s. Decades later, Chief Justice of Victoria John Harbour Phillips reviewed the case and concluded plainly, there seems little doubt it was digitalis. The coroner, Thomas Erskine Cleland, returned an open finding. I would be prepared to find that he died from poison, that the poison was probably a glucoside and that it was not accidentally administered, but I cannot say whether it was administered by the deceased himself or by some other person. Murder or suicide? The evidence pointed somewhere between the two and refused to go further. The case cracked open, or seemed to, in June 1949 during the coronial inquest. A small concealed fob pocket was discovered sewn within the man's trouser waistband. Inside it was a tiny scrap of paper torn from a book bearing two printed words, Tamám Shud, Persian, from the final verse of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. It means, it is over, it is finished. Police made a public appeal. A man came forward with a copy of the 1941 Whitcomb and Tombs edition of the Rubaiyat, printed in Christchurch, New Zealand, and its final page had been torn out. The torn edge matched the scrap precisely, but the book gave us one more secret. Under ultraviolet light, police detected faint indentations on the inside back cover, 5 lines of capital letters, apparently a code, 2 phone numbers. One of those numbers was traced to a nurse named Jessica Thomson, who lived on Moseley Street, Glenelg. She lived approximately 400 metres from where the body had been found. Thomson was interviewed. She said she did not know the dead man. She said she had given a copy of the Rubaiyat to an army lieutenant named Alf Boxall in 1945 at the Clifton Gardens Hotel in Sydney, signing her inscription with the name Jester. Police assumed Boxall might be their man. They tracked him to the Randwick bus depot in Sydney. He was alive. Well, his copy of the Rubaiyat had its final page completely intact. When Thomson was shown a plaster cast of the dead man's face, the reaction was immediate. Detective Sergeant Lionel Lean later described her as completely taken aback, to the point of giving the appearance that she was about to faint. The technician who had made the cast, Paul Lawson, said she appeared as though she would faint and would not look at the cast a second time. Thomson maintained she did not recognise him. Police were not convinced. Retired Detective Jerry Feltus, who spent years working the case as a cold investigation and interviewed Thomson in 2002, said simply that he believed she knew who the man was. He described her as evasive. Her daughter, Kate Thomson, gave an interview to Channel 9's 60 Minutes in 2014, in which she stated her mother had confided that she had lied to police, that she did know the Somerton man's identity, and that his identity was, in her words, known to a level higher than the police force. The coded letters on the back cover of the Rubaiyat were never cracked. Department of Defence cryptographers concluded there were insufficient symbols for a satisfactory analysis. For 7 decades, the Somerton man lay in West Terrace Cemetery in Adelaide, buried under a name he hadn't been given, just a case number and a mystery. Then in May 2021, under Operation Persevere, his remains were exhumed. Forensic scientists found them in reasonable condition, at a greater depth than expected. The technology had finally caught up with the questions. The technology available to us now is clearly light years ahead of the techniques available when this body was discovered in the late 1940s, said Anne Coxon of Forensic Science, South Australia. In July 2022, University of Adelaide Professor Derek Abbott and genealogist Colleen Fitzpatrick announced that DNA analysis of hairs recovered from the plaster death mask had produced an identification. The Somerton man, they said, was Carl Webb, full name Carl Charles Webb, an electrical engineer and instrument maker born on the 16th of November 1905 in Footscray, Melbourne. Webb had married a pharmacist named Dorothy Robertson in 1941. The marriage was violent. Dorothy later described him as solitary, moody, threatening. She said he wrote poetry, most of it, she noted, on the subject of death. In March 1946, Webb attempted suicide with an overdose of ether. Dorothy nursed him back to health.